Hello YouTubes, and welcome back to my next Let's Play with me, BlueAnkylo. As you can see, we're playing Might and Magic 6, The Mandate of Heaven. Yes, this is quite an old game by 3DO. Brought to you courtesy of Good Old Games, the only way I could get it to play on Windows 7. I do own it, the old CDs and box and stuff, but suffice to say it's not so easy to get it to play nowadays. So check it out on GOG. I think you can get games 1 through 6 for about $10 if you really want to. It's pretty darn cheap. Like all of them together as a pack for $10. And then maybe if you wait long enough, there'll be a sale. Anyway, the purpose of this video will be an introduction and story for the game. And I'll get to gameplay probably next episode. So count this as an introduction video. And first off, before you all turn it off, I'll explain a little bit about the game and then we'll get to the story and stuff. Because I'm not going to show you the intro cutscene because sometimes those are really difficult to record and stuff. So anyway, this game is an open-world, non-linear RPG, in my own words. You get a party of 4 with 6 different classes they can choose from, and a whole load of skills and items and weapons and magic and all that's good old RPG stuff. If you're familiar with the Might and Magic world, it fits right in. Maybe you've played this game in your youth or something, or played a similar game. It's not like the most recent Might and Magic. What's it even called? There's one that's like a first-person sort of action RPG. It's nothing like that. It's closer to kind of like a party-based Skyrim or something, kinda. Not that it really fits with the Elder Scrolls lore, but, you know. Anyway, it's a cool old game. I had a load of fun with it as a kid, and I just sort of randomly came across it and thought, hey, I could do a Let's Play of this. That could be exciting. So that's my brief overview of the game. Now, I'm going to take a minute here to read you from the manual, because back in the day, these games had enormous manuals, and that's kind of where you got a lot of the backstory. If I just jumped into the game right now, I don't think anyone new to the series would have any idea what the heck was going on. There's not a whole lot of narrative in-game to explain just what's going on. One thing that you may have missed, because I didn't show you the cutscene, obviously, is the basic video shows you these nasty devils appearing in the world from outer space, and they basically attack your village where the 4 of your party, your 4 party members, were living at some village. I can't remember the name of it, but it'll come up in game eventually. And they basically burn the place to the ground. You just barely escape with your life. And an old wizard named Farragar, I believe, he rescues you and brings you somewhere safer near New Sorpagol, which is where we'll start the game. And we'll get to that in a minute. But essentially, the devils have attacked and things are bad. So hold on for a minute. I'm just going to do a little bit of narration for you guys from the manual. I might put a link to this eventually. Also, before I get too far into it, I want to mention I'm playing this game with the unofficial patch, the most recent one. I'll put a link in the description if you want to play along or something. So it adds a whole bunch of extra mouse controls and fixes and stuff to the original game that were never actually patched. So I think that'll be a lot of fun. I've never even really played with them myself. So, King Roland is missing. Panic! It's gnawing at everything, everyone, everywhere. Some say doomsday is coming to call, that it's been foretold in the stars. There's no shortage of men and women buying into that, cowering under the night sky. More troubling still are the ones looking to those demon stars for twisted guidance. A cult has formed, the Temple of Ba, with a taste for fear and uncertainty, and a hunger for the end of the world. Their terrible desire has set them to sowing seeds of disaster across the land. It's fertile soil for doomsday cult dread. King Roland is missing. Prince Nikolai is too young to manage the realm, and Queen Catherine is away in Arathia attending to the funeral of her father. A council of noblemen runs the show, but they're nothing noble in the spiteful infighting between the lords and their lackey councilmen. While they snipe at each other for personal gain, the Temple of Ba grows more deadly. I fear the noblemen are positioning themselves to replace King Roland's reign with a dark theocracy. Worse, I am tempted to believe the rumor that one of the council members may himself be High Priest of the Temple of Ba. You'll have plenty of opportunity to determine that for yourself, because the council is essential to your journey through Enroth. They hold the keys to the mighty oracle, and they'll only agree to let you in if you meet their self-serving needs. They'll want to set tasks for the adventurers in your party, quests that may distract you from uncovering the evil that gnaws at the land. If you fail, our worlds die. Never forget that. But if you succeed, the adventurers you guide will gain experience and skill. and they may yet be the ones to restore the mandate of heaven. And one more or two as well, I'll read you guys. What is this mandate exactly? If you have to ask, you may never understand. Some call it the moral order of the universe, the opposite of the cold terror breeding up there in the abhorrent stars. To do what is right instead of what is to your own advantage. Sounds simple, doesn't it? And yet, why do so many rulers resort to force in place of leadership? If a king embraces the moral order and follows it, then he is worthy to rule. If not, he has no business, no right to sit on this throne. For he has lost the mandate of heaven. The temple of Ba schemes to destroy for all time that pact between the gods above and the earthly rulers of the land. This doomsday stock in trade, monstrosities and disaster, conspire and convince the people that King Roland Iron Fist has lost the very same mandate they wish to obliterate. The temple followers whisper that rebellion is the only way to reclaim the favor of the gods, and rebellion will place the friendly neighborhood doomsday cult in power naturally. The Oracle understands this better than anyone. For centuries, she has been the link that carries the gods' mandate. Find her, and she may help you stop the destruction of precious order and repair the damage already done. Fail, and learn to love chaos. No, you don't really need an evil. It's a friendly wizard that's reading all this to you. So that's the backstory, essentially, and there'll be some more to come as I continue the video. In the manual, there are also 4 letters that your party will start with. Unfortunately, I'm not going to take the time to read them because of, they're very, very long. They detail they're essentially lost letters from King Roland to his son and his wife Catherine, Nikolai and Catherine. And they detail his army's progress attacking the devils that have attacked the land, whispers of traitors in the council, and his love for his family. At the end of his letters, he does not look, he feels like he may not return, in fact. So he wishes his family the best and asks for their prayers and guidance in the future. If you really want to read all these, you're going to have to basically find the manual yourself. I'm not going to spend much more time on it. If I need to look up specific details, I've got them in my manual. I can tell you more about them as the story goes along if we need to. For now, I will call that good as far as the manual is concerned. Now, to get started with the game, I'm actually going to have to restart it because I had to... technical details. This main menu screen has incredibly loud music, so I had to turn it way down. So once I get started here in a second, I'll have to turn the volume up a little bit. So I'll see you guys back, just a short cut in a second. Alright folks, the volume should be back to normal. Let's get to it. When I click this new game, there's going to be a short narration that tells you a little bit more about the story. I will be quiet while we listen to it.
Having cheated death during the night of shooting stars, you find yourself as far from your village of Sweetwater as old Falagar's magic could take you. 3 years have passed while Falagar imparted what knowledge he could to train you in your chosen professions. But the time came at last when he could teach you no more, and you have ventured into the world to seek your fame and fortune. Now, a world away from your lost home, you have stumbled across evidence of a terrible conspiracy involving a new religious cult. 5 letters from King Roland to his wife Catherine, and a letter from the King of the Devils to a wicked traitor named Solomon have turned up in an abandoned goblin camp. Your fate seems inextricably bound to these letters and that awful night, and your role in the events to come may be larger than anyone could imagine. The tools you have are but a small sum of gold, your wits, and a lot of potential. The roads ahead are infinite, and all the choices are yours to make. So choose wisely. Good luck.
And there we have it, folks. That is how we got the 5 letters that I briefly mentioned earlier, although I didn't feel like reading them all. And in fact, another letter that I'll show you in-game from the King of the Devils himself to a traitor named Solomon, and we'll definitely be reading that. So we are going to create a party, most definitely. Now there's lots and lots of stuff here, and I'll spend a little bit of time going over it because this is the introduction video, and I feel if there's any time to take it slow and explain stuff, it's this video. So first off, of course, four different party members. You can change their look and their voice. We'll do that later, perhaps, as well as their class. You've got 6 different classes. So first off, let's go through the classes, seeing as that's the first choice you should make. The knight, if you want to read all that, feel free. The main thing is they are your melee warriors. They get lots of hit points, and they tend to be good with weapons and armor, specifically. They can wear plate armor, and they can use all the weapons, basically. So they're pretty tough. They do get a ton of hit points. Very nice. Clerics are your traditional healers, and they have much more in common with a D&D cleric than a sort of Final Fantasy white mage type. They are averagely armored. They can wear chain armor at best, and they can use blunt weapons, kind of like, cleric D&D clerics. So they'll be using maces or hammers and chain armor. And they can cover 3 branches of magic: mind, body, and spirit, that will focus around healing and protection. So we'll definitely want one of those, and one of those knights as well. A sorcerer is your standard elemental mage. I will probably accidentally call them mages fairly often, but they, as usual, will be strong in the intellect department, and they'll cast fire, air, water, and earth spells, primarily. There are as well 2 sort of secret ones, 2 secret skills of light and dark magic, and we may find them as the game continues on. Now, the other 3 are essentially combo classes. Those are the 3 sort of straightforward ones. A paladin is a combination between a knight and a cleric, so it's a little different than some other games. It's like a dual class knight cleric almost. And they will get less hit points than a knight, but more magic points, because a knight doesn't get any magic points at all, so it's kind of a cross. They're pretty useful because they can still do some healing, and they're a bit more of a jack of all trades to some degree. But they're good guys, so we might bring one of those. An archer is not really an archer the way I think of archers. Archers are a hybrid between knights and sorcerers, as you can read. So they're more like, I don't know, a battle mage. As you can see if you're reading along, their promotions become battle mage and warrior mages, which makes more sense. An archer, as it turns out, anyone can use bow and arrows, and in fact, we probably will teach everyone how to use archery. So calling it an archer a little silly. But usually, I don't like this class very much. I find knight and sorcerer are not a good mix, because as it turns out, sorcerers need a lot of skill points going towards their magic skills, and if you do that, you can't also have swords and armor to a very high degree, so it doesn't work out very well for me. Clerics are less, you don't have to super max out their magic skills for them to be effective. And then the final class is a druid, the last combination, cleric and sorcerer. These guys aren't too bad because they use both kinds of magic, but they will run out of MP quicker, I generally find, because sorcerers have a higher max, I believe, and these things, if you're trying to cast both clerical spells and sorcerer spells, they're going to run out. Their biggest problem, of course, is, and it's the same with all of these multi-classes, none of them can use light and dark magic, and I quite like having the option for that. So I will be bringing 1 sorcerer and 1 cleric just so that I can teach the one light magic and the one dark magic. If you don't bring them, then no one can learn it, sort of thing. So that's the main classes. I generally, and this is probably true for almost everyone who plays the game, I generally like a nice balanced party. So I like a knight up front with good HP, a cleric and a sorcerer in the background for healing and attack magic, and then this one slot here is kind of a freebie. You could use whatever you wanted. You could have 2 knights or 2 mages or something, but I will go with a paladin just to vary it up a little bit. And the idea here is they'll be able to help out with some of the healing. They won't be as good as it as our cleric, but they'll be able to help a little bit, and they'll still help out with some of the fighting as well. And they're actually going to be used for some of our, what do you call them, miscellaneous skills. I think I'll teach my paladin merchant, for instance, and they'll have more skill points for that kind of stuff. That tends to be how I play it. So anyway, that's your classes. I think I'll go over skills next, just to get that covered. Now, I'll show you more of this stuff once we get in-game and explain sort of normal, expert, master, what the skills do and all that, because it's fairly complicated. And if you're not familiar with the Might and Magic series, I would say it's a little hard to catch on quick. At least it took me a while when I was a kid. But everybody starts with 2 sort of class skills that they start with. The knight gets sword and leather, and the paladin gets sword and spirit magic, for instance. So that's, fairly obvious. They get a weapon and one other. But we do have 2 freebies, and what you can choose depends on your class as well. Now, most of these, the weapons and armor, are actually really easy to learn in-game. So learning shield or chain, although it would start you with some chain armor or a shield, for instance, we can actually learn them in-game pretty quick, and for not a ton of money. So I generally don't worry about those kind too much. I focus more on the extra skills that are either harder to find or just harder to learn. They might be more expensive, for instance. Although starting with a bow is not a bad idea, for sure. I think I'm going to actually make my knight my perceiver and my disarmer. Perception, the reason I always want one of these is to notice traps, which is very important, as well as finding random treasure, which is actually really cool. If I haven't mentioned already, most of the loot in this game is completely randomly generated, as well as what shop owners sell. So having a good perception will help you get better stuff, more magical items and all that. And, of course, disarm trap. After you've seen the traps, you need to disarm them. So having someone with that skill is almost mandatory in my experiences, because there are traps that will nearly kill your entire party in one shot. So that's good. So that covers our knight. Now, the paladin, it's not such a big deal. Disarm is a skill I almost never use. Or, sorry, disarm traps. There just wasn't enough room to... Sorry, never mind. I was thinking disarm as in disarming weapons. No, there's no such thing in Might Magic 6. Maybe a different game. Diplomacy was what I was thinking about. I almost never really worry about diplomacy. This is for talking to other people and changes your reputation when you do stuff. For the most part, I don't really care. I'm not going to do begging, bribing, or threatening a whole lot. So for the most part, that doesn't matter. Maybe what I'll do is I'll actually move disarm to my paladin, and that'll work. And then of the weapons, they both start with sword. I'm actually not going to use swords. As you can see there, if you're reading, once you get it up to master, it lets them use a sword in the left hand. I don't really like that very much. I like having a shield or something defensive. I'll probably end up going for a spear with my knight, because that's pretty cool. And maybe an axe for the paladin or something like that. Maybe it's not a traditional paladin weapon, but I think they can use axes. We'll see. If they have to use a sword, it's fine. I'm not too worried about min-maxing my characters to the absolute best. So perception, disarm, I'll give them sort of one other thing. In fact, starting with leather isn't a bad idea. It's much cheaper to buy leather armor, and at least that'll give them some protection. And then the knight can start with spear, because I do think I want spears for the knight specifically. You can use them in 1 or 2 hands, and if you have them in 2 hands, you get more damage. Or if you need the defense, you could have one-handed plus a shield if you need that. So it's kind of nice weapon. Anyway, let's continue on before this video gets super long. The cleric, if I remember correctly, learning spirit magic and mind magic isn't super difficult. But we will need someone with identify and someone with repair. Identify, as you may guess, identifies magic items that you pick up, and repair can fix broken items, essentially. And in the way I remember as a kid was I generally gave 1 to the cleric and 1 to the sorcerer. Although you might say both to the cleric is easier, but whatever, we'll split it up. It's no big deal. That's just how I seem to remember doing it as a kid. And as much as this is not a blind LP, it's been like a decade since I've played this game, at least. So I'm not going to remember everything all that great. A mace sounds good. I think I might just give her leather as well, just to save some money early on and give us a little bit of protection. I can pick up the other magics later on, and meditation gives them extra spell points, but I don't really need them early on too much. She'll get a shield eventually, and eventually, like, she's not going to really train leather armor. She'll want chain, just like these two will want plate armor. But for now, leather is cheap and it will work just so you can equip it. Anyway, sorcerer. I will give him another branch of magic, and I think I like to pick air. Fire is usually a lot of offensive spells. Air and water gives you, like, air gives you flight, which is amazing. Water gives you water walking and stuff like that. So I think actually water gives you a town portal spell. I can't remember. We'll figure that out as it goes along, but we'll learn them all eventually and train them up as we need. So that will cover the skills for now. The rest of things is the stats and the attributes. We've got 50 bonus points to spread across our entire party. Now, that sounds like a lot, but you know, we're going to run out as time goes on pretty quick here. So the first thing I usually do is, for classes that don't need a stat, I'm going to decrease it a little bit. I suppose I might as well explain them a little bit first off. Might, pretty obvious deals with melee combat, and that's about it. More damage, essentially, for melee. So it's a good skill, but I'm actually not going to pump it up super high for anyone because, melee weapons aren't going to be our primary focus early on. Although the knight might get a little bit. Intellect is specifically how many spell points a sorcerer will get, or other sorcerer-type classes. So for a knight, for instance, that's basically pointless. Sorry, this button. And then personality is the sort of same as intellect, except for the cleric style. So again, for a knight, not very useful. I keep forgetting how to do this. Endurance is really good for everyone. It gives you more hit points. Now, I actually generally focus more endurance on the mage-type classes, because as it turns out, knights will get a crap ton of HP just from getting their promotions to whatever they call them. Cavaliers and champions. They will get ridiculous amounts of HP. So really maxing that out for a knight doesn't matter too much. I'm not going to decrease it, but I probably won't boost it up anything extra. For him, anyway. Accuracy, on the other hand, is good for everyone. Chance to hit is important. If you're going to swing a sword or shoot a bow and arrow, accuracy is good. So I'll probably put a couple points for everyone into accuracy just to make sure it's a good, it's not too low. And then speed is probably the most important stat of all these as far as I'm concerned. The game is, you can switch between turn-based and real-time battling. However you fight, the higher your speed, the more attacks you will get. You also get some free armor class from it. But the main thing is you get your turns quicker, which is incredibly important. If you go super fast, even if you're a little bit weaker, it's going to be worth it. So speed is, I'm probably going to pump this one up a fair bit for everyone. At, say, at least 15 or something. And then luck is your standard RPG kind of dump stat. It does some various stuff, but I generally don't worry about it too much. And you'll see why once we get to the actual game. So anyway, first off then, anybody who doesn't use a stat, we decrease it by 2, because that's the max you can decrease a skill by. So I'm actually not going to decrease might for anyone, because as much as as much as my mages will have spells, they are still going to be stuck bashing things with maces or stabbing things with daggers. And the daggers that the sorcerers use are pretty good, don't get me wrong. They get pretty powerful later on. So, having some might is not a bad idea. I just might not pump it up too much. Anyway, the first thing is I'm going to make sure everyone has 15 speed. And I could probably make it a lot higher if I really want to. But I'll start with 15. Accuracy, I don't know. Let's make sure the sorcerer isn't way behind. And then that's good. And I'm going to pump the endurance up, because people dying is no fun. So we're going to pump this up fairly significantly for my mages. I'm using a lot of my bonus points here. And, 15 sounds fair for those two. Endurance is pretty important. Now that leaves our spellcasters their spell stats, which is probably one of the more important ones still. This will let them cast more magic. So making sure they're not too low is probably for the best. I haven't really looked at might yet. Unfortunately, might I'm maybe not going to have enough spare points for. I will give my knight a couple extra and my paladin a couple extra. I was hoping I'd have a couple more freebies for my cleric and sorcerer, but that'll work out. I think speed and endurance are far more important, just from my own experiences. Well, 20 is really high. You know what? Let's drop it down to 15 or 16. They can have 16. That will work. Actually, changed my mind. The knight's going to actually drop back down to average 14, whatever. I just wanted a few extra points to play with. This will let them get up to 10 for might, which feels like that's going to be a nicer base. And then I can give these guys an extra one. Whatever. I'm not worrying about min-maxing to the largest degree. I'm sure there's a best startup, if you're really interested, that gives you the best stats. And I don't know, whatever. Let's just call it good. Now, we also need to choose our pictures and voices. There's not a huge option.
I'll be fit for your party.
Ready? You want to win?
I'm the one you...
Take me with you. How about me? Choose me.
So you've heard everyone's voices now. I generally have my knight be this dude. I like his voice for a knight. Seems fair to me. I tend to have a paladin, the old guy. Where is he? That guy. He seems like a paladin, right? And I actually generally use this guy for the sorcerer.
Pick me. I'm ready.
That
Pick
one.
Me.
And I almost always pick a girl for cleric. I don't know. It's just me. It seems traditional. I don't know. Maybe I should have a female paladin or something, but whatever. I played this as a kid and I always had a girl.
Me?
I don't really like this one very
ready.
much, but
Choose
she
me.
seems like a good cleric. So that's the deal. Now, as far as names go, that's our last thing here, the last thing to do before we get to the game. I'm actually going to leave that up for you guys. I can use a save editor and change names later on, I'm pretty sure. So basically the first 4 people that are interested, leave a comment or PM me if you really want, and leave me a name. I don't think you can get a ton of letters. Actually, it goes on for pretty long, so you can get a pretty long name. As long as you're not leaving absolutely retarded names. I don't, let's keep it rated PG or something. But yeah, I'm cool with letting some of my subs. If there's 4 of you that want to be in the game, you're in. If no one wants to play, then we'll just go with the default names, and that will do. So, I give you guys the option. It might be fun. If you don't intend on watching the series, then, please don't, add your name in, because it's not really fair for the other people. There's only 4 spots. Anyway, let's get to the game. I've wasted 25 minutes. I did say this was an introduction. Now, just a brief introduction to the game. The reason I have mouse look on is because of the patch and modding I've done sort of automatically. Normally, you're going to have to move with the arrow keys and stuff. Well, I can move with the arrow keys. I've actually changed it to WASD, like a modern game. So I can strafe left and right and look around much easier than you will find by default. If you're interested in doing that, I recommend getting the unofficial patch and playing around with it a little bit until it works. Now I'm going to spend a couple minutes. I'm not really going to start exploring the town of New Sorpogal. I'll save that for the next episode. But I will sort of go over the menus and the sorry about the horrible mouse spin there. Whack my mouse. I'm going to spend just a minute going over the interface and stuff. If you're familiar with the game, I'm sorry about it. This whole video is just making sure everyone's familiar, because I do think these old games might be a little bit hard to catch up on if you're new. Anyway, things to go over. We have our 4 characters in the bottom. You can select between them. I think Tab will switch through them if you want. If you don't have the mouse look mod, you can just click on stuff, but because I have this mouse look, my cursor gets stuck in the middle, so I'll have to remember all the hotkeys essentially to click on stuff. The green bar beside each character is their hit points, pretty obvious. The blue bar is their spell points. The green circle just to the top right of their portrait denotes that it's their turn. So if I turn it into turn-based mode, we've got 2 people with turns, and then the next 2 get a turn. And then some enemies would get a turn, and then it's their turn again. So that's going to be how we remember who's got a turn to play with, basically. The color, the fact that it's green right now, means there's no enemies nearby. Yellow, if the light turns yellow, means that there's enemies somewhere, and we can't rest or anything. And if it's red, it means there's an enemy like right next to you, and you're about to get smacked. So there's that. The top right is the mini-map, of course, and I think I can zoom it in a little bit. Nice feature for an old game like this. Under the mini-map, there's 2 squares that eventually will hold NPCs that we've hired to help us out in our journey. Or maybe not hired, they can just pick them up sometimes. The little apple is how much food we have, and you require food to travel, or at least to manually walk somewhere between zones, and to rest as well. And then, of course, how much money we have. So the rest screen is the little camp icon in the bottom right, or you press R, and you can show. So it does cost us 2 food here to rest and heal. You can wait without using food, but it won't heal you, so that's the deal there. What else have we got? We have a quest log, which we don't have much to go over right now. I'll show you this later probably next episode. I'm just giving you a brief what's going on here. We've got an auto note feature somewhere. Oh, this is an overview of what you've got going on. I think it's one of these buttons, whatever does it. Just gives you a basic idea of your characters. The fame and reputation will come up as we play along. Casting spells, right now, let's see. This is just a spell screen and you can see what they do. I'll go over them as we learn them, basically. And what else have we got? Anything important? Oh, of course, inventory screens. Yeah, let's go over this. So first off, stats. The only ones you haven't heard about specifically are, well, armor class, higher is better, essentially. As opposed to old school D&D, higher is good. You don't want -10. Age will come up here and there. Skill points you get, the way it works is you get experience. After you get to a certain point, you will have to go to a trainer, pay some money, and you'll get level 2, for instance. Then you get a couple skill points, and we can use them to improve your skills. So that's the upgrade system. You've got your melee weapon, your ranged weapon, and your resistances to random elements. Well, fire, electricity, cold. Those are the elements of the game, and, you know, that's kind of handy. Everyone will have their own stats, no big deal. Skills, again, I'll go over these more in the future. The way it works, though, is it will require the level +1 of skills to upgrade it. So right now, sword level 1, if I had 2 skill points, I could upgrade it to level 2. The next one would need 3 skill points to level 3, and so on and so forth. So it's very easy to get low-level upgrades. I could get everything to level 4 pretty quick, but to get, say, sword up to level 10 may take a long time. So that's kind of how that works. You've got your inventory, so there's no encumbrance penalty or weight for stuff, but you're going to run out of space on your screen here. So, you know, you can move stuff around and try to fit it. I don't think there's an auto sort in this game, but that's the point. Also, for reference, this is the letter we have from the Devil Lord to Solman. I might read it next episode. If you want to see it right now, pause it and read. For now, I just want to get through this video, the introduction video. We'll get to the gameplay next time. You know, you can equip stuff and all that. It's pretty easy. Other than that, the award screen will show as we start, you know, getting stuff, getting awards. Is there anything else really important? Auto notes. This is a cool screen. There's going to be nothing here right now. But as we do stuff in the game, it will keep track of it here. So if we brew new potions, it will keep track of the recipe. And if we visit new fountains, it will tell you what they do. So I thought this was a really cool feature in the original game. Before we had the Google, we had to take notes, and this kind of did it automatically for you. It's pretty cool. Is there anything else I'm forgetting? There is a calendar that tells you the day, but I can't remember how to get to it with a hotkey. Oh yes, you can jump. Woohoo, we can jump. We're also on auto run. If you're playing the normal game, you'd have to hold shift or something to run. So that's walking speed and running speed. We also have the ability to go double speed, which is going to be incredibly useful to save some time for the recordings. So that's another addition from the patches I've got. We've also have a quick save somewhere along here, which you normally wouldn't have. Stuff like that is pretty cool. I think that's going to wrap it up for the first video. I apologize for not actually getting to the gameplay, but I did say it would be an intro video, and I'll probably upload the next one pretty quick. So in the next episode, we'll actually start exploring the town of Dusorpigal, and maybe do a little bit of fighting, and talking to people, and, you know, playing the game, having a good time. I expect this series will take a fairly long time. It's a pretty long game. It's very open world. Like, there's a ton of places to go, and I can do it however I want. So there's lots of stuff to do. So yeah, if any questions or comments, feel free to leave them in the questions or suggestions. You know, leave them in the comments. If you're looking to be one of the 4 characters, let me know. And yeah, I'll join you guys next time for more Let's Play Might and Magic 6: The Mandate of Heaven with me, BlueAnkylo.